you how to make a very basic lantern frame that holds a candle. It's slightly different from some of the other lanterns you get to see in processions now because we have LEDs now, we don't need to use candles. But this is the very first kind of lantern that people used in the 70s when we didn't have LED lighting, and I'm going to show you how to make the frame in this video. So this is the stuff that you're going to need to make your lantern frame. You're going to need a bamboo cane. We're going to cut that to about 1.5 foot, 2 foot. You're going to need some withies. These are willow sticks. And you're going to need some masking tape. You're also going to need a saw to cut the bamboo. You might need a little bit of extra strong tape, some gaffer tape, for the wire and for various other things to be fixed. You're going to need some wire. This kind of wire is really good, garden wire, and a pair of pliers to cut the wire. You're also going to need a candle. You don't have to have a full length candle, but if you want it to last for a long time, obviously. And you're going to need some tin foil to hold the candle once it goes in the lantern. So, let's get started. It's a good idea, before you start, to tear up quite a bit of masking tape. It's easy to tear in hands like this. Just because it makes it much easier when you're struggling to hold things with both hands and sticks and all sorts. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to start by making the base of the lantern. The base of the lantern is a nice square shape. So you'll find that the withies, the willow, snaps really easily. If you find it hard and the willow that you've got is slightly damp, you can use a pair of pliers or secateurs. It's probably not a good idea to use the very thin ends of the willow because that will make the lantern not very strong. So when you're using the tape, it's a good idea to stick a little bit on the willow like that first and wrap this bit around like a bandage because it makes a much stronger hold. So you need to tape these corners as well because they'll snap too. And then we'll need to put some diagonal pieces in to make the square stay square. Don't forget to put a piece of tape in the middle there to hold the centre. And that's what you should end up with. So the next stage is to build the sides of the lantern. And for that we're going to need to have 4 fairly strong pieces about that long. We're going to create a wigwam shape first of all. pyramid shape like that. Now this is eventually going to be covered in wet strength tissue paper, but at the moment it's not really strong enough, the frame isn't strong enough to hold the tissue. So we're going to need to put some extra struts in there and framework. You can be quite creative about the shapes and framework that you put in there. So yeah, just use your imagination. We need to think about how we're going to get our hand inside the lantern to light the candle, because all of this is going to be covered in a tissue covering which is transparent and allows the light to come through. So we need to make a little door, an access point for a hand to get in and light the candle. Also, we need to make sure that we leave the top part of the lantern uncovered so that the heat from the candle can safely get out of the top, because the candle is going to be in the middle here and it's going to get very hot inside. So we need to make sure that the framework comes up to about here and there's a nice bit of frame to attach the tissue to, so we know where to go up to. So I'm going to show you how to make a simple door. You need to start off by making a little door frame. So there we have a little door frame. So that's big enough for a hand to get in and light the candle inside. But when this is all covered in tissue, we leave that open, a little bit of wind is going to get in and blow that candle out. So we need to make a little door to go on the door frame. So there we have a little door. It fits nicely, just slightly smaller than the frame. And now we need to give it a hinge. So we're going to use the masking tape to give the door a couple of hinges so it opens and shuts nicely. There we go, little door. We can get our hand in there like a candle. Now I'm going to just finish off this frame and then I'm going to show you how to put the candle bit in next. There we go. Now you can carry on making your frame quite ornate. Once it's covered in tissue, all of these, the framework will shine through, so it's worth getting a nice shape underneath your lantern. Now, for the the next bit, you're going to need some wire and some tin foil and your candle, probably a bit of strong tape and something to cut the wire with. So the first thing is, the easiest way to do this is to start by wrapping just the bottom inch and a half of the candle with the tin foil. This is to keep it safe because there's going to be hot wax and we need to hold the candle safely. You can actually use a wine bottle screw top or a spirit bottle screw top, or there's lots of ways you can hold the candle, but we need to make sure that it's got a metal covering so it's safe. Then you need to get some wire, probably a good length of wire, probably about 1.5 feet, and you need to wrap the wire around the candle, make a spiral shape so it holds the candle, and then with the extra bit make a cross shape You might only have 3 prongs, but that's okay, to fix the candle to the lantern. Like that. You can use masking tape to do this, but I prefer to use a bit of strong tape. You can get white scatter tape, that's nice too. You need to make sure this is well secured because the candle needs to be away from the sides of the lantern. Down to about half the size because I think it's safer. It's not a good idea to have the flame too near the sides of the lantern, and with that length of candle it's still going to last for a good long procession and a little bit more. And with this technique you can take the candle in and out. You can replace the candle, so if you want to carry on using your lantern, if you have it outside, for example, you need to make sure you peg it down to the ground, or if you hang it from a tree, you need to make sure it's secure, because when it swings, that's when it's likely to catch fire. If your lantern does catch fire, it's not terribly dangerous. All that will happen is that the tissue will burn away, and it's not really a high risk. It's not as scary as some people think. So the other thing you need to do is you'll need to make a hook at the top of your lantern for carrying it safely. So you can do this with a piece of wire and a bit of strong tape. That's nice and secure. And then also you will need to make a safe carrying stick for your lantern so that you're not too near it, so you're at arm's length from the lantern in case it does catch fire. So I've cut my candle down a little bit, and going to make carrying stick. So need about 1.5 foot of a bamboo stick, a bit longer if you want. This one's already cut, and you need a little bit of wire. So I'm going to fold the wire in half like that, and then just bend the end like that, and I'm going to use some of this strong tape. I like to tear it down the middle to make it a bit thinner, and I'm going to fix that wire onto the bamboo cane like this, and then I'm going to bend those ends over so that it doesn't slide out, and put another bit of tape on top, and that should be pretty secure. And then with those folded over ends, I can make a nice little hook like that, and that should be just right for holding the lantern, so you can walk in the position. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to paper your lantern and how to do decoration if you want to do decoration too. So tune in to the next video.